As the world reeled from power shifts and cultural transformations, the Iberian Peninsula, a Visigothic stronghold, lay vulnerable to forces just beyond its borders. In a time of division and uncertainty, and driven by faith and fierce determination, new conquerors, unexpected and relentless, would drastically alter the landscape of Western Europe. Hello, and welcome to Impactful Moments, where we explore some of the most, you guessed it, impactful moments in human history. If history is your thing, or you simply enjoy learning new topics, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us to continue creating captivating, impactful historical content. In this video, we will discuss the Berber invasion of Iberia, Islam's entry into Europe. While an Arabic-Berber conquest of Iberia in the early 8th century is unquestioned, and many of the specifics are well documented, some key details of this invasion remain disputed, largely due to limited and inconsistent historical documentation among the Germanic tribes compared to the more extensive records from the Roman and Greek periods. For example, some accounts link the spark of this invasion to a figure named Count Julian, often depicted as a governor of Ceuta, who allegedly invited the Muslims into Iberia in response to personal grievances. These details may be more legend than fact, with many believing that he may have never even existed at all. Scholars also debate the role of the Jewish communities in Iberia, with some suggesting that persecution under Visigothic rule may have led them to welcome or even support the Umayyad forces, though the extent of this involvement is similarly unclear. Additional questions persist regarding the Visigothic political divide and the precise nature of the Visigothic king, Witiza's death, whether it was an assassination or not, as well as his succession. Even key battles, like Guadalete, have sparse and sometimes contradictory accounts. Nevertheless, our general historical understanding of this crucial period in early Islamic expansion is fairly clear. In the 5th century, the Western Roman Empire faced relentless pressure from various barbarian tribes, marking the beginning of its downfall. Among the most impactful of these incursions were the Visigoths, who, under King Alaric, famously sacked Rome in 410, a symbolic blow, as this was the first sack of the city since the Gallic incursion by Brennus centuries prior. After the Western Empire's formal collapse in 476, the Visigoths, who had migrated through the empire into Gaul and the Iberian Peninsula, eventually established a kingdom encompassing Aquitaine and Iberia, in modern-day France and Spain. Their dominion extended further after they subdued rival tribes, including the Alans, Vandals, and Suebi, which granted them control over vast territories in the region. While the Byzantines briefly regained control of southern Iberia, the Visigothic kingdom largely maintained its hold. This stability was reinforced in the late 6th century, when King Recared converted from Arian to Orthodox Christianity, a shift that unified the Visigoths under the religious structure of the broader Christian world, bringing a measure of religious and political cohesion to the region. For roughly a century, this relative unity held, allowing the Visigothic kingdom to thrive as a central power in Iberia. However, turmoil returned with the death of King Witiza in 710. Witiza's sons, too young or politically weak to inherit the throne effectively, left a power vacuum, and a Visigoth noble named Roderick seized the opportunity to take control, fracturing the kingdom between rival factions. Simultaneously, across the Mediterranean, a seismic transformation was underway. The Muslim world, driven by sweeping conquests of the Rashidun and Umayyad caliphates, expanded rapidly. In the decades following the death of the Prophet Muhammad, Islamic forces surged out of the Arabian Peninsula, reaching as far east as the frontiers of India. With its western territories stretching across North Africa, the Caliphate encouraged conversions to Islam and fostered alliances with the indigenous Berber populations. One of these alliances was led by the Berber commander Tariq ibn Zayed, a skilled military leader who had become instrumental in the Caliphate's ambitions. Eager to weaken the Visigothic kingdom and expand Islamic influence, the Umayyad governor of Ifriqa, Musa ibn Nusayr, dispatched Tariq into Iberia, capitalizing on the kingdom's instability. In the spring of 711, Tariq assembled a small force of around 7,000 Berber soldiers and crossed the strait between North Africa and Iberia. He gathered his troops at a rocky outpost that would soon bear his name, Jebel al-Tariq, or the Mountain of Tariq, later westernized to Gibraltar. Upon their arrival, Tariq's forces encountered minimal early resistance, as most Visigothic troops were scattered in response to the internal conflicts. Following raids of the southern Iberian towns and countryside, Roderick hastily assembled his army and confronted Tariq's forces at the Battle of Guadalete. While historical details of the battle are scarce and sometimes contradictory, it is believed that Roderick's larger but disorganized army struggled against the disciplined and fervent Berber and Arabic troops. The outcome was decisive. Despite significant Umayyad casualties, Roderick was killed and his army routed. With the Visigothic forces crushed, Tariq pushed further into Iberia, taking advantage of the divided populace and weakened nobility. By 712, using both military and diplomatic tactics, Tariq's forces, now bolstered by reinforcements from Musa, had captured cities like Seville and Merida, as well as the Visigothic capital of Toletum, modern-day Toledo. Islamic expansion into the peninsula continued, as they swiftly established control over much of the peninsula by 718, controlling all but the Asturias region in the north, who had rebelled and maintained their autonomy. The conquest of Iberia marked the dawn of the Umayyad province of Al-Andalus, a new era that would blend Islamic, Christian, and Jewish influences across the peninsula, transforming the region's social and cultural landscape as Iberians adapted to their new rulers, customs, and faiths. The conquest would also set the stage for what many historians view as one of the most socially and influential battles in human history. The conquest of Iberia by the Umayyad forces brought sweeping changes to the region's society, religion, and politics. One relatively immediate change was the effective end of the Visigothic Kingdom. While the Visigothic people still influenced the regional culture for centuries, and some may have even remained as kings of Asturias, which remained out of Muslim control, their nobility gradually disappeared, assimilating into the remaining Christian population. Aquila II, or Roderick, the men who fought for power just preceding the Berber invasion, are generally considered the last of the Visigothic kings. Islam, meanwhile, became the dominant religion, supplanting Christianity as the foundation of political and social life in Iberia. The Islamic Berbers, commonly known in Europe as the Moors, or by George Costanza as the Moops, established a political dhimma, or protective status for non-Muslim residents. In exchange for paying a jizya, or non-Muslim tax, Christians and Jews were allowed to continue practicing their faiths. While this arrangement created a clear status hierarchy, the Moors' approach to religious tolerance was notably more lenient than the strict orthodoxy previously imposed by the Visigothic Christians. This environment allowed for coexistence, enabling a rich interchange of ideas and cultural practices that would characterize Al-Andalus for centuries. The Muslim conquest also put the neighboring kingdoms of Western Europe on high alert. Following the conquest of Iberia, the Moors attempted to push further north, encountering staunch resistance, first from Odo the Great and the Duchy of Aquitaine, and then, more significantly, from the Franks. The resulting clash at the Battle of Tours, where the Frankish forces led by Charles Martel halted the Moorish advance, is often regarded by historians as one of the pivotal moments in European history. The battle not only marked the limit of Islamic expansion in Western Europe, but also established the Franks as a formidable force, paving the way for the Carolingian Empire's rise and the eventual emergence of a distinct Western European identity. The legacy of the Muslim rule in Iberia profoundly changed the region. Al-Andalus became a haven for a variety of faiths and cultures to coexist, fostering an environment where Jewish, Christian, and Islamic scholars could thrive and contribute to the flourishing of knowledge. Renowned thinkers like the Jewish philosophers Maimonides and Nachmanides, the Muslim polymaths Averroes and al-Zahrawi, and Christian scholars like Rosamundus emerged from this environment, each advancing fields from theology to medicine, politics, and philosophy. Their contributions still resonate today, with many of their works remaining foundational in a variety of academic disciplines. The blend of Islamic, Christian, and Jewish cultures also inspired a unique blend of artistry and architectural grandeur that would become iconic to the region. Landmarks such as the Mosque of Cordoba and the Alhambra Palace in Granada reflect the architectural sophistication, beauty, and cultural synthesis of Al-Andalus, standing as timeless symbols of this diverse legacy. Politically, while the Muslim conquest of Iberia was swift and decisive, the stability of Muslim rule was soon tested by internal divisions. Both Tariq ibn Zayed and Musa ibn Nusayr, key leaders in the invasion, were called back to Damascus by the Umayyad Caliph, leaving local governance vulnerable to regional rivalries. Despite this, Muslim control over Al-Andalus endured for centuries, even as Christian kingdoms to the north launched a prolonged effort to reclaim Iberian territory. This period of Reconquista, a gradual and multi-generational campaign, culminated in 1492 with the fall of Granada, the last Muslim stronghold, marking the complete re-Christianization of Iberia. The final stages of the Reconquista were marked by the Spanish Inquisition, a stark contrast to the Muslim religious attitudes in which the Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella, promoted a strict Catholic orthodoxy, forcing all non-adherents to either convert or face expulsion. The Inquisition thus introduced an era of intense religious intolerance, fundamentally reshaping the social and cultural landscape of post-Reconquista Spain. Despite the stark changes in religious attitudes, the Berber-led conquest set political, artistic, and religious currents in motion that would influence not only the Iberian Peninsula, but also the broader European and Mediterranean world. The cultural legacy of Al-Andalus, with its incredible contributions to philosophy, science, art, and governance, continues to shape the historical and cultural landscapes of Europe and beyond. I hope you enjoyed this video and found this period in history both informative and enlightening. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and I hope you can join us for another video. Thanks for watching.